What's up everybody, Matt Maran here, coming to you live from Toyota's headquarters for this week's weekly update. So I'm here for Toyota HQ, going over a bunch of different stuff. I'm filming a review on the Sequoia, covering a bunch of other stuff here, and so it's a beautiful campus, so many awesome cars. Like there's an LC500 Inspiration Series right there behind me, and many other awesome cars. But anyway, let's get into the automotive news this week. So there is a ton of stories to cover. Toyota had a bunch of stuff, and I'm sure you guys saw that I had a bunch of stuff that I covered a couple of days back, and so definitely go watch those videos if you haven't yet, about the Mercedes Edition, GR Corolla, and the GR86 Special Edition. But for some other stuff here that came out this week, first off, Toyota has refreshed the Corolla for 2023 and given a bunch of nice improvements, the biggest of which is the option of all-wheel drive for the first time. So it'll only be available on the hybrid versions, and unlike the Subaru Impreza or the Mazda 3, this all-wheel drive system uses an electric motor in the rear to provide the all-wheel drive, enabling much better fuel economy than those non-hybrid all-wheel drive competitors. Toyota claims all hybrid Corollas are now more powerful thanks to a new electric motor, but they haven't quoted any new horsepower numbers, and there's no word on how much more power the all-wheel drive versions will get from that rear motor. The 2023 hybrids also get a new lithium-ion battery that's now located under the rear seat to maximize trunk space. There's no updated fuel economy numbers for these yet either, but the hybrid will also be available on more trims now, in addition to the LE that it previously was available on it. Now it can be had on the XLE and the SE. The SE Hybrid now also gets the firmer steering from the Apex Edition. For the non-hybrid Corollas, the stronger 2-liter 4-cylinder is now standard and replaces the 1.8-liter engine that was still standard on the LEs. So now everything gets the more punchy engine, which is great. That means a 30 horsepower bump though for those LE trims, while also getting about 2 better MPG for the fuel economy. Beyond the mechanical stuff though, the 2023 Corollas get new bumpers, and the SE, XSE, and XLE get a new DRL design in the headlights that we first saw on the GR Corolla, where it's just the one continuous light beam there. The SE and the XSE now also get a little rear diffuser there, as you can see, and some new wheels. There's also some new colors. The last few improvements are the redesigned center screens and the gauges. The 8-inch touchscreen is now standard, and it comes with Toyota's new infotainment software that enables wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto now, which is great. And lastly, all Corollas come with the Toyota Safety Sense 3.0 system, which enhances the performance of all the driver assistance systems. And so there's no pricing or release date for the 2023 Corollas yet, but I'm assuming they'll be available here this fall. Toyota has also announced some changes to the Corolla Cross for just its second model year here for 2023. And the biggest addition here is a hybrid version. So it uses the 5th generation hybrid system, but strangely Toyota didn't say what engine it uses exactly. It'll most likely be the same setup as the Corolla, I'm guessing, the regular Corolla that I just talked about, which would mean a 1.8-liter 4-cylinder. They did say it only comes with an electronic all-wheel drive system here though, on the Cross, interestingly. But for the Corolla Cross, they did also give some performance numbers here, saying it'll have 194 horsepower and an 8-second 0 to 60 time, plus an estimated 37 mpg combined. So it's a nice power improvement from the 169 horsepower of the non-hybrids. It also only comes in the S, SE, and XSE trims, which are also new for 2023, because 2022s they only had the LE and the XLEs. And the S trims also all get unique bumpers, wheels, a sport-tuned suspension, LED headlights and taillights, and smart key access. The SE and the XSE add in some various luxury and tech features, along with the option of 4 different two-tone paint color options, which is cool. Inside, it also gets Toyota's new infotainment software and that wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Plus, the Toyota Safety Sense 3.0 system now comes on the Corolla Cross, and so there's no pricing or release date for those yet either, but again, should be available in time for the 2023 model years here this fall. And then the RAV4 also gets some updates for 2023. Toyota really updated just about everything here this week. So the biggest change is on the inside, where the 8-inch touchscreen is now standard, and the upgraded screen is now a 10.5-inch display that's available on upper trims. Both also run the new software, meaning they get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The gauges also get an upgrade, with the 7-inch screen in the middle now being standard, and a new 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster is now available on the higher trims. And lastly, there's a new Woodland Edition here that's essentially a TRD off-road, except with the hybrid powertrain. It gets a TRD tuned suspension, Falcon Wild Peak all-terrain tires, black roof rack, crossbars, bronze wheels, black chrome exhaust tips, mud guards, black badges, all-weather floor mats, all that kind of stuff. and so there's no pricing or release date yet for those either. Moving on from the Toyota news here though, Volkswagen this week has revealed the 2022 Golf R 20 Years Edition. It gets 14 more horsepower for 329 total now, and the retune also includes a change to preload the turbo during part throttle applications for faster response. The throttle valve is left open on the overrun, and it now even has what they call an emotion start, which revs to 2500 RPM when it starts up. It does 0 to 62 at 0.1 second faster now for a 4.6 second time. The DSG also gets retuned for more aggressive shifts. Otherwise though, it just gets unique badges, wheels, which come in blue by the way if you don't get a blue exterior. You also get a unique spoiler along with carbon fiber interior accents. It arrives in Europe in June, and there will be a US version, but supposedly it'll be a little bit different. They didn't say how it will be different, but we will be getting one at least though, so that's good. They also say they'll be in production until roughly the middle of 2023, interestingly, despite being a 2022 model year car. Moving on to Mercedes-AMG, there's a couple stories for them here this week. First, they revealed the specs for the C63 S E-Performance at the 24 Hours of Nürburgring event last weekend. So, like I talked about last week, it'll run the same M139 turbo 4-cylinder from the C43 that I just talked about a few weeks back. But the big question was how much electric boost it would be getting beyond that C43. But we actually had another surprise as well, where first the gas engine turns out it's going to be more powerful than in the C43. It's going to do 464 horsepower from a 2-liter turbo 4, which is actually the highest output 4-cylinder on sale currently. It's really impressive. And on top of that craziness here, the electrification gives it a big boost too. They're saying the official specs are 661 horsepower, 553 pound-feet of torque for this new C63. That's 158 more horsepower than the last C63, so very impressive for that. They say even with all this technology though, it's still that powertrain weighs less than the previous V8 powertrain, so it should give you some lower center of gravity, better handling as well. Hopefully we get a full reel of that car soon, but no date as far as when that's actually going to arrive either. For some less exciting but very big Mercedes news here, the second generation of the GLC has just debuted here for the 2023 model year, and it's 2.4 inches longer on a wheelbase that's about a half an inch longer. The track front and rear there is a bit wider too, but overall the car itself isn't any wider, and despite the extra length, rear legroom only goes up by 0.1 inch, with the main benefit being 1.8 cubic feet more cargo space. Mechanically, it gets the same revised 2-liter 4-cylinder mild hybrid from the new C-Class and does 258 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque, which is 22 more pound-feet than the last GLC. The 9-speed automatic has also been updated to work with the mild hybrid system for extended coasting, and the all-wheel drive system now allows more power to be transferred to the front if needed, along with now having an off-road mode. It also gets a new 4-link front suspension for better handling, ride comfort, and in Europe it'll be available even with rear-wheel steering. Unfortunately, we're not getting that here in the States for some reason. But styling-wise, it's a conservative change. It retains its classy, good looks, blends in some of the inspiration from the new C-Class, of course. On the inside, it's basically an exact copy of the C-Class with the 11.9-inch touchscreen, 12.3-inch gauge screen, and the usual Mercedes interior quality with lots of leather, metal, ambient lighting, all of that. It should be quieter inside now too, thanks to an improved drag coefficient that should reduce some wind noise there, as well as making the GLC more efficient. The driver assistance tech is also more capable now, being able to do emergency stops from higher speeds and having better lane detection and steering performance when the active steering assist is on, and there's no pricing or release date for those yet either. Mercedes has also finally debuted the production version of the AMG One hypercar after many delays, and it's still an awesome car that runs the powertrain from the Formula One car, but it's a little less awesome than the original prototypes. For one, I just had a dealer source to confirm to me that it will actually not be coming to the United States because of, I think, emission regulations, but for some reason we're not getting it here in the States supposedly. But on top of that, instead of the 1.6-liter twin-turbo V6 having an 11,000 RPM red line, it now is a little bit lower. They don't say exactly where the red line is, strangely enough, but looking at the tach, it suggests around 9,500 RPM, still crazy high. They also say it's not going to make peak power till 9,000 RPM, so it is a motor you're going to still have to rev out, of course. It's still a Formula One engine, essentially. It's still crazy, still going to sound amazing, but it doesn't rev that much higher than like a 911 GT3 or a Ferrari engine, for example, which go to 9 grand, so it's a little bit more, but not quite as crazy as 11,000, which is a little bit of a bummer. But nevertheless, it still does 560 66 horsepower on its own from a 1.6 liter engine, and combined with the electric boost, the total output is 1,049 horsepower and does a 2.9 second 0 to 62 time. 124 miles per hour happens in just 7 seconds, and the top speed is 219 miles per hour. It runs through a fancy 7-speed paddle-shifted manual, and it's still a plug-in hybrid too, and it can actually do about 11 miles on electricity alone in EV mode. There's also various other drive modes as well, including a couple that actually lower the car by over an inch and tighten everything up, kind of like what you saw in the 4 GT supercar and stuff, along with optimizing the aero and all of that. And so anyway, I could spend a full 20 minutes going over all the crazy details on that AMG One, but overall it will still be, you know, a very impressive vehicle even with that lower red line. They're building 275 of them, priced at $2.75 million each, and they're all already sold out, of course, and the first cars will start arriving to their lucky owners later this year. BMW has revealed the next generation of the 2023 X1 this week. So it didn't grow as much as the rumors were suggesting, saying it was going to be like 7 inches longer or something. It's 1.7 inches longer to be exact now, and it's taller than before while also being just about an inch wider. So it gives the X1 a more muscular and chiseled look, and while the grille is large, thankfully, they kept that more subdued than other BMWs, likely to keep the looks a little bit more mainstream to preserve, you know, the strong sales of the X1. Buyers will also like that it's a bit roomier here on the inside, with more head and shoulder space, along with a solid tech upgrade. It now gets the 10.25-inch touchscreen alongside a 10.7-inch digital gauge cluster. So like other new BMWs, it also gets rid of the gear shifter, replaces that with a little toggle switch. But the new center console does greatly improve storage space. It still runs the 2-liter turbo 4, but it gets 13 more horsepower and 37 more pound-feet of torque for totals of 241 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque now. The engine should be a little bit more durable now too, thanks to it running both port and direct injection to avoid some carbon buildup there, which is great. And instead of the power going through the regular 8-speed automatic, it now uses a new 7-speed dual-clutch automatic. And despite the enhancements, the 0 to 60 time only drops by 0.1 second though, now doing a 6.2 second 0 to 60 with all-wheel drive. Front-wheel drive will still be available too though, for those who are curious about that. The suspension is sportier now too. You can add on an adaptive suspension for the first time in the X1, so if you want even better performance, you can add that. That also gives you a 0.6-inch lower ride height. The driver assistance tech has been advanced a little bit more and better performing. And there's no pricing for the front-wheel drive version, but we do have pricing for the X-Drive version. That'll be starting at $39,595, including destination, which is a reasonable increase of about $1,200 over the old car. So cool to see that. And some other BMW news here. They're making some fairly big changes to the 2 Series here for just its second model year. Lots of car companies doing these big changes for just the second model year. So the 2023 is built from July onward of this year. Will get much better tech and a totally redesigned interior already. So you get a new 14.9-inch curved touchscreen along with a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster that now loses the enclosure that it used to have. But that new screen, it means there's no physical climate controls anymore either, so the only buttons on the dash you see are to control the stereo. It also loses its shift knob and replaces it with a little tiny lever like those other 2023 BMWs. And the new M2 will also be getting this new interior, aside from the fact that it will have, thankfully, I think, a manual shifter. But aside from that, you know, it'll be the same kind of, you know, screens and all that. But why BMW went to the trouble of designing an entire interior for just one model year for the 2022s, and then now they're getting this all new one for 2023. I mean, I get it if it just wasn't ready with those screens in time, but it's just kind of surprising they, you know, spent the money to do that. But anyway, interesting to hear that, and a nice improvement for the 2 Series and the M2 eventually, nonetheless. Moving on to Land Rover here, they debuted the Defender 130 this week, which stretches the back end about 13.5 inches in order to make the Defender an 8-seater SUV now. And Land Rover claims 3 adults can sit comfortably in that third row. They also get their own climate control, with these longer Defenders now offering 4-zone climate control. If you're interested in more cargo space, with a third row folded, you can get over 11 more cubic feet of cargo space now. And other than that extra length, it looks about the same as any other Defender and should drive pretty similar, since the wheelbase hasn't changed and it runs the same 3-liter turbo straight 6 that's available in 296 horsepower versions and 395 horsepower versions. That punchier one will propel the 130 to a 6.3 second 0 to 60 time still, so plenty quick. And it runs an electronic air suspension that's set up to live up to the Land Rover name, of course, being very good off-road still, although it's a little less good because, you know, you have the longer overhangs and stuff. But the 130s here can still also tow 8,200 pounds, which is solid, and it'll be starting at $68,000, so cool to see that. Jaguar has also announced the 2023 F-Pace SVR Edition 1988 that celebrates their 24 Hours of Le Mans win in 1988. And so it gets this purple paint called Midnight Amethyst and gold wheels, unique badging, polished exhaust tips, all that. On the inside, all the trim you can see there is gold, as is the contrast stitching. And only 394 of these will be built, one for each lap that the race car did in 1988. And they'll be priced at $111,150, and they're available to order now. Buick has revealed a beautiful WIldcat EV concept this week. And so it just started supposedly as a casual sketch one of their designers did, and they liked it well enough that they just wanted to bring it to life. So it's just a design concept, so don't get too excited about this, leading to any kind of production model. There's also no specs for it, but Buick will be getting an EV in 2024. And they said 2 models they're revealing later this year will be using some styling cues you see on this concept. And this is also the first vehicle to wear the new Buick badge. And you might see some of the styling in the next Buick thing that they just also revealed, and I'll talk about in a second here. But Buick also revealed they'll be bringing back the Electra name as a basis for future EVs, not as one model, but as multiple models. The first example of this they actually showed off in China is the Electra-X concept. And so it looks to be about the same size as a Cadillac Lyriq, so it's very easy to imagine this could be Buick's version of that potentially, especially since Buick says that this actually does preview a production car for China, at least, and says this will be on the Ultium platform as well. And if the concept is any indication, it seems like it could borrow the screens and the Super Cruise tech from Cadillac. And so, yeah, it's very easy to imagine we would get this here in the States, but as of right now, it's, it seems like it's just for China at least. One other interesting tidbit, though, is there is subtle GS badges on the cabin here. So that suggests the name will be used for performance EVs from Buick in the future, which isn't too much of a surprise, but kind of cool they're going back to their heritage for that. But hopefully we do get some info on stuff for the US here relatively soon. And some other GM news. GM has aggressively slashed the pricing on the Bolt and the Bolt EUV this week, which both dropped by about $6,000. They're kind of pulling a Nissan Leaf. They did the same thing a little while back here. So a regular Bolt now starts at $26,595, and the EUV now starts at just $28,195. And so Chevy said they did this to keep the Bolt competitive, most likely with the Leaf, and also because affordability has always been a priority for these vehicles. So it's great to see an EV well under $30,000 already here available for those who complain about electric cars being expensive. Yes, I know this is just kind of like a roomier hatch, but still, it's nice to see that we have some stuff under $30,000 already that also does have solid power and range. So cool to see that. DeLorean has also fully revealed their new Alpha5 electric car, and so that has a few nods to the past, but DeLorean says they wanted to go in a fresh direction here, and so it has this 2+2 seating arrangement, a fairly standard interior setup, and fresh styling from Ital Design, which is the same company that designed the original DeLorean. And so the little tributes to the past you can see are, of course, the gull-wing doors, but also the 3-level taillights, the 2 LED little light bars, and the louvers over the rear window. As for the powertrain, all they're saying currently is that they have some partners in the UK working on it, so that's a mystery still, but thankfully there's at least a few specs they've given here, saying the battery will be bigger than 100 kilowatt hours, and that will power multiple electric motors that enable a 0 to 60 time in under 3 seconds and range of over 300 miles. They say it will be a tool for people that love to drive, but production is scheduled to start in 2024 in Italy, and while there's no pricing for it yet, it's rumored to cost over $200,000. And so one bizarre thing that Autocar is reporting is that the first 88 cars will serve as an avatar for an associated NFT, meaning they won't be road legal and they're suitable only for track use. And so I doubt anyone will be, going for that, but we'll see. And it's also strange that their CEO told Autocar that after this car will come a V8 powered coupe, an electric sedan, which makes sense, and then a hydrogen SUV. But the SUV there and the V8 coupe seem to be a kind of a strange inclusion for the lineup here for DeLorean. So I guess they're dreaming. We'll see what happens. But the strangest thing is they say that they need to make that hydrogen SUV to achieve more volume sales. But I don't know where they're living, but hydrogen is not plentiful. You're not going to sell any large number of hydrogen vehicles even by 2024. So we'll see how that plays out for them, but interesting to see that. And cool that there are a few retro touches to that DeLorean, but I still just wish they would have just played it safe and simple and just made it look like the Hyundai Ioniq 5, which looks more like a DeLorean than the new DeLorean does, unfortunately. Just, have it be a retro thing, everyone would love it, everyone would buy it, and it would have been a much easier path to success, I think. But they're trying something different and crazy. We'll see what happens. Another company that's pretty crazy, but we'll see what they do with their future models, but supercar company SSC revealed to Motor Authority that they're working on 2 new models in addition to the top speed record chasing Tuatara. And so the first will be a hybrid all-wheel drive hypercar that will still be a limited production car, but that will be more well-rounded, they say, than the Tuatara, thanks to the electrification component it's going to have. Despite this extra refinement, though, their CEO claims it'll be even faster in a straight line thanks to its all-wheel drive, which is achieved, by the way, from electric motors in the front wheel hubs there. And they combine that with a gas engine behind the driver. He also says on-track performance will be enhanced as well. And so once that car is done, they're planning to build a new factory in 2025 to build what they call the little brother to the Tuatara, which likely means something smaller, slower, and less expensive. Probably not quite as rare, but I mean, we're still talking about something that'll be plenty potent considering the regular Tuatara has 1,750 horsepower. So, something slower is still going to be one of the fastest cars on the planet, I'm sure. So interesting to see that. And lastly, CarBuzz has discovered a new name that Lamborghini has trademarked for a potential future vehicle. So the name is Revuelto, I believe. And so it sounds like it could be an electric Lamborghini, especially with the Rev part there. But from past reports, it sounds like an electric Lambo is at least 5 to 6 years away still. So, I mean, those past reports say it'd be like a 2+2 setup and have a little more ground clearance. But again, we're saying like 2028 was when that could possibly arrive. So we'll see what happens. It's possible this name could also just be for some type of one-off model or for an electric concept car, potentially, something like that. We'll see, because kind of Revuelto kind of reminds me of Reventon, so maybe that could be the precursor for the next, V12 Lambo or something as well. We'll have to see. But anyway, interesting that CarBuzz has discovered that. But anyway, that's it as far as all the news this week, guys. I lastly just want to thank all of you who are members of the channel. We didn't have any new members join this week, but if you want to join, you can always click the join button here on the video page or the channel page if you're on a computer, or you can also, go on to the link in the description and join there if you'd like. But anyway, that's it for all the news this week, guys. Let me know your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.